So we hope to be able to start shortly, but while we have your attention, there are a couple of things that we really need to tell you. I think you already are aware, but in case you need a reminder, there is a facility or an avenue through and by which way you can submit your thoughts, queries, comments via WhatsApp. So the WhatsApp number, we will try and display on the screen now, the WhatsApp number, which is arranged for by SLT Mobitel, the official telecommunications partner for our event. So that's the WhatsApp number that is displayed on the screen right now. And it is by using that you can communicate with the moderator, who will receive those ideas, thoughts, questions, and act on them. And there are many others who we would like to recognize as our sponsors. So we have platinum sponsors.
We have two platinum sponsors. They are Lanka IOC PLC and Diesel and Motor Engineering PLC, or DEMO. We also have gold sponsors, Abans Group, Selinco Life Insurance, DSI Samson Group of Companies, Haycarb PLC, Sime City Cement Lanka Limited, and Union Assurance PLC as well. Then to our silver sponsors, OTR Engineered Solutions, Lanka, Built Element Limited, LB Finance, and Leaf Digital Printing, Singer Sri Lanka, Soft Logic Insurance PLC as well. We appreciate them, as well as People's Bank. Now, our business relations partner is National Savings Bank, or NSB, and our print media partner, Vijaya Newspapers Limited. We also have our official payment partner, Dialogue Asiata PLC, and our official automobile partner, who you may have had a chance to meet, Stafford Motor Company Private Limited, and of course, Pearson assessment partner, who you've heard about their case study. It's in the bag at your table. Did I mention our official telecommunication partner, the one with the number?
That's right, we did, yeah. So anyway, no harm emphasizing it or underscoring it, because that's the platform that's available to comment or ask questions. So we are almost ready, and we will be notified when we are, in fact, ready to proceed with our technical session number 3. There's a 4th session as well, but now technical session number 3, which has a theme.
That's AI in the boardroom and beyond. We've had many references to AI throughout our sessions. And indeed, in the keynote last evening, we heard that management accountants now need 3 types of skill, which is financial, obviously, but technological as well as human, which allows you to translate the intersection of all 3 into perhaps human language and add human emphases and values to the information that you're getting. So that's particularly important when we bring it to bear in AI in the boardroom, as well as beyond.
Okay, so we will start right now, and let me explain how we proceed to conduct this session. We have the chairman of the session, who we will introduce in a moment, and he will make his presentation. And then we have the panel, which will also form, but the keynote comes before that. The keynote address will also be made, and then the panel discussion will follow. And we also have the moderator, who is on his way, who will shortly be here. So we have the introduction to this section by the session chairman, who is the president of CA Sri Lanka. That's the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Sri Lanka. And our moderator is just walking in. Okay, that's wonderful. So, Mr. Tishan Subasinghe, the chairman of the session, is a distinguished financial leader and We've already mentioned his position, but he's the 28th president of CA Sri Lanka. And he's also with a background in law. He's an attorney at law and has an MBA in finance from the University of Colombo. And of course, he serves as the managing director of Moore Consulting Private Limited and has around 28 years of professional experience, and now is joint managing partner of Moore Iyer. Regionally, he has elevated Sri Lanka's profile with the global accounting profession through his active roles on the board and committees of CAPA as well as SAFA. Then we have our keynote address, which will be delivered by
Dr. Ramesh Ranavana, who embodies the intersection of academic excellence, entrepreneurial spirit, and visionary leadership in the field of AI, with a foundation rooted in a Doctor of Philosophy in AI from the University of Oxford. His journey spans the roles of a respected academic, innovative entrepreneur, strategic business leader, and a thoughtful contributor to AI policy. His leadership extends to shaping AI policy in Sri Lanka, where he served as the chairman of the National Committee, and to fostering talent and innovation as the former chairman of the SLASCOM AI Center of Excellence.
Then we have Mr. Jehan Perimpanayagam, who is CEO of Informate, and he's a fellow member of CMA and ACCA and has more than 30 years experience with the John Keel's Group. And he's a leader in the IT industry, pioneer, in fact, Sri Lanka's first shared services, and held multiple industry roles, including a role as chair of SLASCOM. And so later on, we'll be handing proceedings to Jehan. But we also have other panelists who we now introduce.
The first of our panelists is Mr. Conrad Dias, a visionary business leader, technology strategist, futurist, and thought leader in emerging technologies who has over 3 decades of experience. He's a fintech enthusiast who's innovated many financial technology products and solutions, and he's the founder director of iPay, a revolutionary platform beyond payments, and founder of OYES, another fintech platform that's making every day a payday. That's an interesting concept. He was the group CIO of LOLC Holdings PLC and is now director of the company. He's been selected as one of the 11 inductees of the world for the CIO Hall of Fame and has an MBA from the University of Leicester, UK, and is specialized in ICT management.
Then we also have, as panelists, Mr. Kaushika Jayalat, solutions consultant with Oracle Corporation, and also serves with CPA Australia as a council member. And he brings a combination of transformation, accounting, and board governance experience. And Kaushika is also chair of the Digital Business, Data Analytics, and AI Committee for CMA Sri Lanka.
We also have Professor Tushari Silva, a professor in artificial intelligence at the Department of Computational Mathematics, the Faculty of Information Technology, University of Moratuwa. She has a PhD in Information Systems from the City University of Hong Kong and a Master of Science degree from the Asian Institute of Technology. Her research interests include artificial intelligence, machine learning, explainable AI, and semantic data analytics. She's also contributed to Sri Lanka's national AI policy initiatives and AI education research and responsible technology-driven development in Sri Lanka.
And very much in keeping with the topic, that one that we see on the screen, is Hasit Yaggavita, CEO of 99X, a technology leader, entrepreneur, and community builder with more than 20 years of experience in the software industry. And currently, as I said, heads 99X as CEO, a globally recognized digital product engineering company where he also serves on the board and drives the strategic direction thereof. His degree is from the University of Muratour with a master's from Sheffield Hallam University in the United Kingdom. So we hand over the proceedings of this session, which is AI in the boardroom and beyond. And Jehan Perimpalagam will move on to the stage with all of the others. But first off will be Mr. Tishan Subasinghe, who is the chairman of the session. So we invite Tishan to address the audience, but all of the others, please move to your places on the stage, and Jehan will direct you all accordingly at the conclusion of Tishan's presentation.
President of CMA Sri Lanka, Professor Watawala, Vice President Mr. Hinnayaka Bandara, Council members, keynote speaker for the session, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. So I've been requested to give a brief introduction to the session. I've been allocated 5 minutes. In the interest of time, I'll straight away move on to what I want to say. So today's, session 3 topic is AI in the boardroom and beyond, practical application, managerial challenges, future of decision making. So, ladies and gentlemen, since we speak about the boardroom, I think those who are in charge of governance, the tone at the top, need to know the big picture. We have missed, I would say, 3 industry revolutions. Fourth one, we have partially caught up. We are about to enter into the 5th industry revolution, which should be really augmented by human AI collaboration. We lost the first 2 industry revolutions because we were a colony of 2 European nations that time, 1760, 18th century. When the first industrial revolution started in Europe with the introduction of machines to support industrialization, we were a colony of the Dutch. Then towards 1840, the second industrial revolution started with mechanization. Then we were a colony of the British. We have lost these 2 industry revolutions because they did not want to introduce the technology behind their new inventions. Even though they introduced the railways and tea factories, etc., the technology behind those were never introduced. So we have missed. Third industrial revolution, starting from 1950 with digitization and automation, that we have lost due to our own problems. We didn't have stable governments throughout for several decades. We had our own internal issues, so we have lost it, digitalization and automation. And when the world was moving with digitization and automation, we were focusing on handloom products, and need not say it just including the entrepreneurs, the industry went into, but it's only one example actually, because we did not move with the world. Fourth industrial revolution, since 2010, powered by AI, deep learning, blockchain, etc., smart office, Internet of Things, IoT, we have partially in line. So we cannot afford to lose the 5th industry revolution. In that context, I must really appreciate the endeavors by CMA Sri Lanka for bringing in this very important and timely topic into this year's conference. The know-how would be really important for all of us to nicely plan and articulate our work. So I believe we have become a laid-back nation because we did not move with the latest technology. We became a colony of European nations because we did not have the technology. The slavery could come in different ways, due to economic crisis, by depending on various countries, agencies. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot miss Industry 5.0. We need to get ready. We need to get equipped with the required and relevant knowledge to support our country's development and finally to ensure independence. So in this context, let us start our session. I hope that we understand the broader context within which all these new technologies are coming in, and the management accounting profession is no exception. All our work, financial accountants, cost accountants, management accountants work would be impacted by AI and related technology, and we need to understand how it would happen, and we need to learn how to move with these latest technologies. So I'm concluding my introductory session. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As we go on, we can discuss further.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My sincere thanks to CMA for this invitation and for dedicating a session for this extremely important topic. I think it's not the best time to be talking about AI now, soon after lunch. Everybody is digesting their food. And the challenge is not, I think, artificial intelligence, but actual intelligence at this time. And that's my challenge, how to keep you all going. So let me ask you all a question. How many of you in your organizations now are using AI for anything? Even something simple as drafting an email. How many of you are using AI in your companies? Please lift your hands. Yeah, I think most people here. But let me ask another question. How many of you can show the impact of AI in your companies, in your P&L? Can you show the impact of AI? Can you actually show that AI has made an incremental impact on your final P&L? Anybody here? So this is the problem. I think we have Hasit here, who works for a tech company. He has no choice. But this is the essential problem. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is some of my own field notes. My own notes on how you can approach the adoption of AI, strategy for AI, and also investment of AI as a management accountant or as a member of the board. How you would actually move towards being able to create an actual impact, a P&L level impact, an auditable impact using the AI that you have. So the problem that we are seeing right around the world, and what I saw today from the hands that you lifted, is that the problem of creating impact with AI is not a Sri Lankan problem. It's a global problem. So this was a study done by McKinsey last year. McKinsey, MIT, and also S&P Global, where they had studied close to 2,000 companies. And they had asked, how many of you use AI? And there were like 88% of those companies were using AI in at least one function. But the problem is, when they asked the second question, how many of those companies are actually getting real earnings? More than 5% of EBIT, or at least a small impact, an incremental impact that you can actually prove on your P&L. It was only 6% of those companies. And this is the problem I'm going to talk about today. I'll talk to you about some of the strategies that we have developed over the last few years, last 10, 20 years that I've been working on AI. we've made many mistakes, and I can talk about hundreds of projects that we've tried and failed. And what I'll talk to you about is some of those methods that we used to try and convert some of those investments into intellectual impact. So if you talk about why people are not getting impact from AI, it's nothing to do with the technology. It's nothing to do with the AI model. What's actually failing? First, most companies that I've spoken to in Sri Lanka and around the world make investments in AI with no actual tie-in to the P&L. They don't measure success in objectives, which is adjectives, to say that we are using AI for this, we are using AI for that. That's really more of the narrative that I see from most companies. The larger problem is that most companies do not invest in data. Data is probably the most important source, the most important foundation, the most important enabler for any AI impact. And I'll talk about some examples of companies who have actually done this right and talk to you some of the actual impact that they've shown. Another mistake that I see most companies make is that they try to take AI and bolt it onto their existing workflows. If they have a workflow which gets you from A to B and go through steps A, B, C, D, E, they would take AI and try to implement AI into step A, into step B, into step C, into step D. This does not work because AI has to be used in a fundamentally different way. You have to redesign the way you approach these processes. Another problem which people really disregard is that usually a lot of the AI systems that I see even in Sri Lanka have no named business owner. Usually the technical systems, the AI systems are owned by the technical team, whereas it should be the other way around. Any AI project should be led by the final business owner who is going to be accountable for that P&L line within their companies. And then finally, companies really struggle with killing projects. From starting a pilot and then saying, no, this is not working, and killing that project. They keep going and going and going. A year, 2 years down the line, they see that there's been no impact. So really, as you can see, the reason for there being no or very little impact with AI around the world has nothing to do with technology. It's not a technology problem. All 5 of these that are listed here are all management choices. This is something I'm sure you all have all heard, seen from BCG. This is a tagline they've been using for years. To get impact with AI, it's actually only 10% of the effort involved is involved with the AI model or your AI system. About 20% of what you need to get done is related to technology and data. That's your IT systems, your data integrations, your data readiness. But 70% of the work, which I think most companies forego, is the investment that you need to make on people and processes. What does that mean? The 70% is redesigning the work, redesigning the workflows. Just like companies went from non-digital to digitization. If you look at the way your companies run now, the finance section, supply chain management, the way you did it before computers and the way you do it after computers is fundamentally different. Similarly, if you're going to be adopting AI, you can't be using those same processes that you designed 10, 20 years ago. You need to redesign those processes. You need to reskill your staff for this new job. Managing AI systems is fundamentally different to managing IT systems. How you observe them, how you manage them, how you refine them, how you check whether they're working or not is a fundamentally different skill, and your staff needs to be ready for that. You need to rewire the incentives, scorecards, job descriptions of these people who are working with AI. And you need to run adoption. You may invest in a $100 million AI system, but you're not going to get the impact until it is adopted using all these different things, and you got to run adoption like a P&L line. So the mistake I've seen is that most boards fund at 10%. The 10% on the algorithm, 10% on the AI systems, but not the rest. The technology integrations, the data, the people, the processes, things like that. So foundations really are your ceiling. 60% of all the AI projects studied by Gartner on about 1,200 companies. 60% of these AI projects are abandoned through 2026. And the main reason for that was that the data wasn't ready. 63% of companies that they questioned didn't even know whether their data was ready or not. This was a fundamental problem. They don't really have an understanding of their own company's data readiness. Before you start an AI program, the first step you need to do is to do an assessment of your data readiness and prepare that data for that. So if you take one of the biggest success stories with AI is DBS Bank. They spent 10 years fixing their data. They built one unified data backbone before any pilots, and it took them a long time. But then after those 10 years, in 2024, they were able to show a $750 million incremental impact through AI. And then just a year after that, they were able to show $1 billion incremental impact on their final P&L. And this wasn't one use case or two use cases, and you can go and check the financial disclosure this year. They have 370 use cases which are now running on their system to get to that 1 billion. But what they did was they decided that the investment in data was the most important step they had to make before they go into the investment in AI. And this, I think, is one of the biggest mistakes most companies make. They try to get into AI from day one without focusing on data readiness. So really, the big message here is that the model is the cheapest line on the invoice. Everybody focuses on the AI part without focusing on the rest, especially data. So the 6 places where money or P&L impact really lives is first is what everybody knows, person productivity. Everybody works faster. You measure this in the number of hours worked, into the loader cost, minus whatever the software is going to cost you. 90% of the people in this room, I'm sure, are already using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini for different parts of your work. And these run on subscriptions. These have an impact, but are extremely difficult to measure. It's very, very hard to know what type of impact, a measurable impact on these systems. But the real foundation, the large P&L impact, comes from other things, from decision intelligence, being able to forecast, plan, model different crises, forecast error versus last year's baseline, automating processes, the back office. How do you automate your back office process? How do you build an always-on engine that's able to run your company, regardless of whether you're there in the company or not? And this is some of the goals that we have set ourselves on our growth engine for CLM, CVM, or for customer service. How do we build this always-on engine that's going to be always running, always executing, regardless of whether people are coming to work or not? And that's the goal. Personalization. This is something AI is exceptionally good at. If you have a customer base of 1 million customers, you're never going to be able to personalize for every single individual. But AI can do this if your data is good enough and you have enough information about your customers. Service and support, another big key. Faster answers, any time of day and night. You need to manage that. But once again, how you manage your AI-based data center, your AI-native data center is very, very different to how you would run a normal data center. And also on risk and compliance. It sees everything, especially for things like audit. Instead of auditing only 1% or 2% of your financials, AI can audit everything all the time. Not only once a year, but it can be continuously running all the time. So really, the answer is how to measure this everywhere. Before you launch, you need to have a baseline. This is very, very important, especially if you want to create P&L impact. You need to isolate a holdout, something like an A/B test, so you can measure what difference your A/B test, your AI system is having, and finally you verify using a delta. So value that survives an audit. There are lots of examples around the world. $1 billion DBS from AI analytics in 2025, 370 plus use cases published every year since 2021. 23% lift at DBS in customer satisfaction through their Joy Assistant. serving both corporate and SME clients. And they've also claimed about a 2 to 10 million saving in back office automation. And this is once again one of those things I said is very hard to measure. How do you measure back office automation? Companies like HSBC have already shown that their detection of frauds have gone up by 2 or 4 times through AI and ML screening. So the key here, the key for any company is not to focus on adopting AI or bringing AI in, but to really focus on outcomes. What are the outcomes that you want to drive? Do you want to increase your revenue? Do you want to reduce your cost? So really, the playbook for any company is first, start with the outcomes. Don't start with the use cases. Start with the outcomes. Then, once you know what outcomes you want to target, be it cost reduction, customer satisfaction, you name it. First focus on the larger outcomes, then map those outcomes to what are the use cases that you need to build to get to that outcome. And a lot of the time, a single outcome may require 10, 20, 30 different use cases to come together to get to that particular outcome. And then you decide what technology you need and what investment you need to make. And this is, I think, one of the big mistakes a lot of companies I've seen making. They start with either number 2 or number 3 without starting with number 1. And that's how you focus on that. And while you're doing this, it's very, very important to also invest in the foundations. The data, the knowledge, the APIs into your systems, the integration, the governance, the ops, all those have to be done in a way that those systems are reusable. If you have 370 AI use cases, you don't want 370 infrastructures which are linking all these systems. You need to have one common infrastructure which is supporting everything. And all that needs to be managed in a central place, in a control tower. One of the worst things that can happen to your company is shadow AI, where every division is building their own AI systems and running their own strategy that diverts from the larger goals of the organization. Also diverts from the investment on where your money should be going. All this should be managed as one single portfolio, and you need to have a single control tower which tracks value, spots shared needs, kills and scales projects as needed, and also rebalances quarterly, and also handles the compliance side. So really, the main message here, focus on outcomes first, use cases second, technology last. Technology is getting easier and easier now. Technology doesn't really matter. It's so easy. It's something that would take 2 years for a developer to build 2-3 years ago now. You can sit and get Claude to build it for you in a couple of days. That's not the problem. It's really how you approach it, how you take an outcome first approach on how you approach this. So really, how do you get from prototype to P&L? Obviously, if you're trying something new, you shouldn't go to a large investment first. You must start with a quick prototype. You need to explore. And this does not necessarily have to be expensive. You don't need to hire large development teams anymore. It's very, very fast to quickly build a prototype. You can start with a few interns who are coding with AI and maybe one full-time employee who is putting it all together. You build that. And then once you have that in place, you have a gate which decides whether this actually has the potential to create P&L impact for you or not. And only winners pass from there. Then you go to production. This is the expensive part. This is when you start to actually spend money. You don't need to spend too much money on the exploration. That's when you need to hire engineers, data engineers, DevOps engineers, all that. And once you productionize, you go to scale. But this, once again, a word of warning here. The business owners must once again lead this. They must pick the bets. Ideas shouldn't be coming from your IT divisions. That should never happen. If ideas come from your IT divisions, they are trying to solve technical problems and do cool things. That's not what we should be doing. We should be working on how you work back from outcomes. And the business owner should co-own the build and also own the runtime and the fixes. And something that you must understand is that AI systems are fundamentally different to how software systems work. A software system, you may build it, you deploy it, and there may be some changes. You make some changes, you do some UATs, and you will get to your desired outcome quite fast, soon after launching. But with AI systems, 99.9% of the time, when you first launch your AI system, it is never going to reach your KPI. We've encountered this in our chatbots, our voice bots, our churn systems, our upsell systems. We see this every day. If our target is, let's say, for our chatbot, 80% resolution of customer queries using the chatbot, when we first launch it, we find that we are at about 5%. Then only the real hard work starts. Once the hard work happens, once you start, you then got to go through an iteration. You got to refine it, understand where things are going right, going wrong, and you got to continuously keep improving it. And if you got the stamina and a board who supports you, you can get it to a point where now you're finally meeting your KPIs. And then you can keep doing that, and you'll find that the performance keeps improving. This is, as you can see, very, very different to how software systems work. And if you stop that continuous maintenance, immediately what you'll find is that the performance of the AI system drops. And this is because AI systems are not rule-based like software systems, but systems which run on data. And data keeps changing. The environment keeps changing. Market conditions keep changing. If you are not continuously adapting, your system is going to fail. And for that, you need a full-time team that's made up of the business, technical teams, AI experts, data experts who are working continuously together to continuously keep improving these systems. And if you don't set up this operational system where you observe, measure, feedback, and then retrain and release the system and keep going through this loop, for the entire life cycle of the system, what you see is it drops. I've seen a lot of companies launch products. They run it for a month, and they find that the KPIs are below where they want it to be, and they kill the product here. They don't keep going and keep refining and adopting and hacking the system until it gets to that KPI. And we are facing this with all the systems we build, from our chatbots to voice bots. Day one is a disaster, always. Month one, once again, disaster. You may have to keep doing this for a month, a year, sometimes to get it to that level. And even then, you can't stop. When we launch a new product, we are testing out, we are trialing a few products as I speak. And what I have is we set up a dedicated war room where we put the business team, the IT team, and people from my team, the analytics team. We lock them in that room, and they have to keep working in this room and observing until we get to the KPI. And we book that room now for the next 3 months. That's how we develop this system, and that's really, really important to understand that the management of AI systems is very, very different to how software systems work. And then to drive this, you must also understand that roles are going to change. The responsibility of the board is to establish technology budgets, define the risk appetite, and publish their target values. This is where we want to get with these numbers. The CEO, once that mandate comes, needs to be the sponsor. He or she has to be the operating model redesign. How is the organization going to look as an AI native organization? The line managers have to supervise both the humans and supervise the AI, understand how well the AI is doing. And the CFO, the management accountant, must almost be the scorekeeper, maintain the scorecards for the AI, and has to be that value gatekeeper. For the system, you need 3 critical roles. You need an AI value owner, who is usually the business owner. You need to have a data steward who manages and owns the data. And you need translators who can convert the business requirements into technical descriptions. So for any AI system, you need to have these hats in place. Obviously, you need to also have the brakes to make sure that your investment doesn't run out of control. These are once again some stats from Deloitte, from a Deloitte report where it said 31% of boards in the US don't have AI experts on the board. Directors have limited or no knowledge of AI, which means they don't know how to make investments in AI. And firms, only about 1 in 5 firms have mature enough governance to be able to have AI agents running within their companies. AI agents are extremely dangerous if not managed properly because they can have massive unintended consequences. So you need to have a named human owner for every AI system. The board must own the risk appetite at policy level. You need to have standards, especially if you're using AI. There are standards like ISO 42001, which are available now. And there are also certain compliance requirements coming even in Sri Lanka, like the PDPA Act, which will allow you, which you also have to, your AI systems have to comply with. I just want to, before I end, I want to make a couple of notes on immediate impact that you all can get from tomorrow. What I've talked about today is more on how you approach AI strategy beyond the technology side. What can management accountants actually use AI for? For a whole host of stuff, especially on the productivity side, from drafting. You must understand that two of the biggest superpowers of AI today is not the ability to be able to write a letter, but two other things. First, it has ability to process massive quantities of data. You can collect 100 Excel files, upload it onto Claude, and tell it to analyze and correlate this data. That is one superpower that these systems have. And then the second superpower is that these AI systems now can code. They can code better than most programmers, which means that you can run your data analysis, you can develop your dashboards, anything yourself. So really, go beyond what you think ChatGPT, Cloud is good at. Generate an image, write an answer to an email. Those are fun, those are cool, but really are not game changers. The real game changers first is data analysis, the ability to be able to process massive quantities of data and link all that data together. Second is the ability to code. Coding is the biggest game changer, especially if you use it properly. So to end, remember these numbers. 95% of pilots around the world fail. AI pilots fail, right? 42%, only 42% of companies are good at killing AI systems and AI bets. You got to have that discipline. You got to run through quick cycles, understand where this is going, and if it's not going in the correct direction, stop it. And 70% of what is needed to create impact with AI is not technology investments, but investment in people and process. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to you, and congratulations to Professor and the team at CMA for putting together this stellar panel, and congratulations, Dr. Romesh, for a fantastic presentation. Lots to take home and lots to think over. If I could ask you, Session Chairman Tishan, about some of your reflections on the keynote speech.
Yeah, thank you, Jehan. I would start by saying, again, reiterating, Sri Lanka cannot miss this opportunity, Industry 5.0. In that context, knowledge capturing applications, facing challenges are pretty much important as a nation. So I think we need to understand the big picture. In this context, what I understood from the presentation, the accountability behind AI-related decision. Now, for instance, take the tone at the top. The tone at the top, who would be setting the policy and the direction, need to understand, need to have the insights of AI to set the tone. So in that context, it's very important from the top to the down to have accountability and to really understand the business case behind rolling forward AI and related technology to enable the business processes by adding value to the whole business. This is what, Jahan, I understood. This is kind of the summary, but in this context, as professionals, I think we need to have the right set of knowledge, irrespective of the level of management that we are in, starting from the governance and downward. So later on, I will again further go into detail, because we need to understand the big picture. We have generative AI, we have agentic AI, but for us to make use of these tools plus the advanced applications like agentic AI, we need to have the knowledge. So in this context, I must again appreciate CMA Sri Lanka for setting the platform for CMA members to capture knowledge in bits and I don't think that one would be able to understand the whole thing within 2-3 hours, but then it's giving the direction. So we will further deliberate as we go on.
Thank you very much, Tishan. Now, could I now invite each of the panelists to share a brief opening comment, commencing with Hasit, then Professor Tushari, Conrad, and Kaushika.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jehan. When I was looking at Ramesh, your presentation, you had some numbers which are very hard to beat, right? 1 billion ROI at DBS and 4 times better fraud detection at HSBC. If you think about some of these examples of HSBC and DBS type of banks, the type of infrastructure, the type of data, the type of the setup for AI they have was built for decades. We, as 99X, we deal quite a lot with SMEs in Europe. And even for them, SMEs in Europe, this is a far-fetched dream to get to what HSBC is having. So the question is, a lot of times, what is actually practical for us if you are not HSBC? One number which actually I would like to double down upon from Ramesh's presentation is 70% of the effort is actually in people and process, not technology. Right? That was a really good statement, and that is exactly my experience as well. So what does that mean, right? If you ask your management accountants at our organizations, how many of you have, let's say, a Claude installed in your spreadsheet application Excel? Or how many of you are having automated processors to extract information from Excel into your management reporting presentations? Not many, not many. Or how many of you are using month-end closing using AI systems for reconciliation? Not many. So for us to get to any of that, we don't really need to build AI systems. These are mostly available out of the shelf with probably already bought licenses you have at your organizations. And the people and process part is the gap of knowledge or the gap of courage to actually use these systems. For that, we don't need, like, it's not a board discussion to get an approval to do another training, right? It's in the training budget item. So there are quite a lot of low-hanging things you can do to get to this 70% gap or 70% effort before we really think of developing something new on AI. So that is what I would like to start my reflections on, Jehan.
Thank you, Asit. Professor Tushari?
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, it's a pleasure to be here and listen to great talk. And we started from Dr. Ramesh's keynote speech and collected a lot of thoughts. So it's pretty sure that we all are using AI, and AI is not anymore a part of idea which is residing in a laboratory or university or any course, right? So now it is in your hand, in your organization. The real value of artificial intelligence is it is coming to the core of the organization and strategic development. So, the biggest challenge or biggest question for the board of directors or board to decide is not whether you go for AI or which technology you are going to use and develop, which platform you are bringing in. It's far better than that. It's about you have to ask which data you are going to pump into, which prompt you are going to write. Are you revealing your confidential data, employee records? passwords, and even at the board meetings, you are revealing very secret and confidential information. And this much is your expectation, the ROI, and everything. Are you going to put those numbers into this prompt? Is it safe? Right. Do you know a story? An Amazon and their recruitment engine, which is developed based on artificial intelligence, didn't like women. They didn't hire women for many years. Surprising. So you might call it gender bias, so there will be more picketing. But the later they decided what's the problem. They found it in their recruitment system, which is based on the marvelous machine learning algorithms or whatever. So they use data from the past, from their company, which is more biased because it reflects most of the male candidates, male employee they recruited. And they fed the same data to the system. They implement their recruitment engine, which is AI-based, intelligent, uploaded 100 resumes, and the system is capable generating the most suitable 5 candidate for the job. So 1 minute job. It's a big problem. So drastically challenging the humanity community. So why Amazon do not hire women? Aren't they capable? Aren't they having the innovative ideas in their mind? They do have, but the problem is with the data, what they call the gold mine. So we are now in the era, we need to talk about not only using artificial intelligence, but how to use it responsibly, when to use it, what to use it. And every organization should be very open-minded and select, okay, so these are the data I'm putting into these systems. Right, with the limited time, I would like to highlight one key message here. So it's not the data or it's not the technology. It's about the human and the technology. So they need to collaborate together. So the system shouldn't make decision by itself. So you have to bring the human into the picture. So with this one, I'm looking forward to bring more ideas in how these industries going beyond this excited artificial intelligence arena and transforming the power of artificial intelligence and aligning with the organizational value and bringing more output to the human community. Thank you.
Thank you. Conrad, would you like to go next?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I think I couldn't agree more with Dr. Romesh's presentation. I think it's an excellent one in terms of what his keynote talked about. I'm happy to say that, our journey in terms of AI also started in a similar pattern. And so I would like to give a little bit of a framework that which I use so that, it'll be more or less the same so that you can pick and choose certain things. So we call it AI OS, which is the data layer, which is very important in terms of the organization. But I think we can't wait until we get all the data. But I think it's a layer that which will grow over a period of time, in my view. So we have to start with where you are now. That's number one. And of course, the other thing that we alluded to is the human first approach. Because I don't think that having the data alone will not suffice. I think the human first, we have to ensure that our entire organization, in your organization, everyone is trained not just to use the AI, but how effectively use the AI. So I think that's something that we all need to look at in terms of an organization. So that's another approach that we have taken. And the other thing is that we call it the ignite stage, because I think there has to be some use cases that will give the confidence factor for the organization and end users, because this AI is something which is very new. So I think that's something that Ignite stage is all about, that whether you can use, I'm sure Ramesh has done with traditional AI, the machine learning elements of it, which is more explainable and which you can seriously look at certain things effectively, rather than the more popular generative AI side of it, which is more fun and a lot of other things you can do, drawing pictures to videos and all that. So that's the other part of it. And the fourth pillar that I would like to talk about is we call it the frontier pillar, which is what Dr. Romesh spoke about in terms of rethinking your business from an AI first approach. So these are the four areas which we have looked at in terms of an organization. I'm sure it's similar to what Dr. Romesh spoke about. But I think what he spoke something with regards to the statistics, I would like to allude to is especially when it comes to the organization perspective, the governance structure, which is very, very important in an organization. How do you bring the governance? And today, if you really look at it, globally, even the frontier model developers looking at how do you govern this AI in order to prevent it from misuse. So similarly, especially when it comes to an organization, I think that's something that which you need to really, really consider, because there is a risk element which we can speak about it later.
Thank you very much, Conrad. Kaushik?
Thank you. I have to first thank Professor Vatawala for putting me on a panel with such experience across the board. So I'm truly humbled to be here. I have a bit of a push and pull in this situation because my day job, I work for a technology corporation whose fundamental message is AI will solve everything. But at the same time, I sit on a global board for CPA Australia, which is the epitome of governance and making sure that you do things in a way that's measured. And so it stands as the third largest accounting body in the world. It stands for governance. So I have to look at it from the positives and the negatives. I have to look at it from the pros and the cons. And I can say without a doubt, everything, Dr. Roshan, that you mentioned, it's what I live and breathe on a daily basis. And this is not a Sri Lankan problem. This is a global problem. Across, I work in Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia. But there's a common denominator here, which is it's new to everyone. It's not like AI existed in America different to us for a long period of time. We've all got the same tools to play with, all at the same time. And knowledge is increasingly becoming democratized. So I very much resonated with everything that you said. And it's not like we planned this, but the good thing is I've actually written an article. If you Google CPA Australia innovation metrics, it's actually like the next step of what you spoke about, which is, okay, you've explained the playbook. Now, how does a management accountant actually track it? What are the actual metrics that you need to track? Is return on investment good enough? And the answer is no. Return on investment is not the right metric to measure AI. Because Roshan explained how AI has that curve where you actually dip at the start and then you start picking up. How do you justify return on investment when that's the investment cycle that it's going to look like? So what else do you have to track? So the article that I wrote is primarily talking about what are the metrics that you as management accountants need to start tracking. And you'll see it will go into input metrics, process metrics, output metrics. And you need to track all three. Roshan explained about that starting small. Starting with, sorry, Romesh, got your name wrong. Starting small with something like 1 or 2 people, an intern and an FTE. That's called venture funding, all right? You as a management accountant, you can track the venture funding, how much you're spending. You spoke about training. You can track the training spend. From a process point of view, you spoke about kill rates. You can track the kill rate. You can track how many projects you kill. And a healthy kill rate is a good thing because that means you tried something, it didn't work, and you realize that you can move on. From an output point of view, There you track return on investment as one of the things. You track percentage of revenue from new products that's been created, cost optimization, the reduction in cost to serve. These are all metrics that if you haven't been tracking as a management accountant, you need to now start tracking. There's a cost for running these things afterwards as well. In Techland, we call it bot sitting. You create a bot. The bot is not perfect on day one. You've gone live, and now you're running with it. So it's all these metrics that you need to now start tracking. And everyone's got the same problem. So that's the lens from a management accounting point of view. But from a governance point of view, there's a lot you need to do as well. You need to identify the governance gap and close it. Now, once again, you don't have to do this on your own. There's enough and more research frameworks that you can use. You just apply the same framework. But to do that, you need to close the shadow AI gap that you might have. If you've got 100 people in your business and all 100 are using AI tools, you need to know what they are. That means you need an AI inventory list. You need to know what tools are being used. If you give your staff a company laptop and you track that asset, you need to also track the company use of AI tools as well. Same concept. And governance layers add on top of that. What's the fundamental piece of AI? You explained it as data. So if data is the new oil, and we heard that yesterday as well, and you treat data like oil, you still refine oil. You still purify it. You need to do the same thing with data. You need to clean it. You need to make sure you only feed the AI the right information. And then you add the professional skepticism layer on top of that. And that's where, as accountants, you're the best placed people for that. Because who trusts an organization's data the most? Any organization, you go to the accountant. And that is who you trust the most with the company's data. So you have that professional skepticism built into you. So use it. I'll just end on that to say there's a lot of things AI can, and everyone needs to also remember, AI is probabilistic. What does that mean? It is very smart, but it is very smartly guessing. It does know, it knows a lot of things, but it is still guessing the answer. So if that is the case, you need to treat it like something that is guessing the answer. So with that, I'll just say everything that you said resonated greatly with me. I hope you understand how much more you have to do, but also the opportunity you have as management accountants for being the differentiator in the industry.
Some fascinating thoughts to kick things off, and we'll get to our first round of questions titled Investment, Governance, Investment and Governance. So Hasit, I'd like to start with you again. How does a company set about building an AI roadmap? And how should organizations of different scales invest in AI, taking into account the word that you used, the hype curve?
Yeah, sure. The roadmap. Why do we need a roadmap for AI? Right. If you recall my earlier comment, I was telling a lot of things that that you can get started with are probably already licensed in your organization. It's more like a gap, the people and processes and the knowledge gap or the courage gap than availability, accessibility gap on AI. So as a roadmap, I think the first thing we need to do is do this adoption of what is available around us, what is available free of charge. For an example, to bridge this knowledge gap, one of the easiest things you can do, probably it won't even hit your training budget, talk to the AI provider. If you're on Anthropic or OpenAI or Microsoft, just ask them for the possibilities and ask them to conduct a series of training for your staff. I think this adoption is the number one. I think a lot of people starts from the other end of the roadmap, which is to build something new, because it is sort of the coolest thing you can go and present to the board, right? You can't really impress people by saying I did a training. So you need to have a AI program. So people tend to start from the other end. So my experience is the organizations which succeeded, they first invested quite a lot in adoption, training people, and then they integrate. Because when you do that, you will realize there are certain things which works, certain things which does not work. So you pick couple of things and you say, I'm going to integrate these things into my daily workflows or our organization's workflows. I'm going to integrate this into my management reporting, monthly management reporting, or I'm going to integrate this into my closure reports. Likewise, you need to integrate one or two things into your workflows. There's a notion, of course, Somesh also mentioned, should we rethink the whole workflow, or do we need to just integrate certain things into the existing workflow? I respectfully have a little bit of a different opinion here. Sometimes if you try to reinvent the whole workflow without really knowing the consequences of it, there could be certain challenges. So my advice is try to integrate one or two things into an existing workflow, and then once you gain a little bit of experience, think of redesigning the workflow for the AI era. So that's a step two. So step one is adopt as much as possible. Step two is to integrate into the workflows. And once you are certain that my organization is the leading organization in using what is available out there, but what is available out there cannot really take me from here onwards, and then is a time to build. So not to start from the build. So this is what I see most of the organizations which actually practically succeeded without getting into this hype curve. If you all know the hype curve, right? You have a technological trigger, and then you go into the into a what you call the peak of expectation, right? And then you come down, right, at a point of time, realizing that that peak is not achieved, trough of disillusionment, and then you go up again, right? This is sort of the hype curve. The why you need a roadmap is not to fall into this, not to be carried away by the hype, and also not to abandon what was invested when you get to the trough of disillusionment. And this is where I think in Ramesh's presentation, he was explaining quite a lot of percentage of AI projects were dropped, and people were not really adapting things anymore. They're disappointed is because they haven't really had a roadmap to survive the hype curve. I think having a roadmap, for me, one is, of course, that's a North Star for you. You have somewhere to go. But more than that, in this type of a technological shifts, massive technological shifts, roadmap is very important for you to actually manage this hype curve. So that is how I would recommend organizations to look at adapting a roadmap, Jehan.
Thank you very much, Hasid. Conrad, you spoke, and several others also touched on this governance aspect, right? So can you share the responsibilities of a board and what elements should be in place for AI governance? Is it policies? What else should be in place for good governance?
Thank you. I think Dr. Ramesh also touched upon it slightly in the governance framework and what the boards must do in his presentation also. I think what is important is board should understand what is the purpose of this investment, right? It's very important that they identify what's the purpose. I think today, just like the hype curve, I think everyone is, because of the hype that you try to adopt AI and you want, it's a hot topic and you're talking about it and everyone says that we want to have a AI. But one thing is, I think the purpose is the very important thing from an organizational perspective. then what principles that we adopt as our organizations? Again, to the governance, right? What are the principles? Basically, in terms of transparency, the AI requires a lot of transparency if you are to, and data governance, a lot of areas that you need to cover. So what are the principles of the organization you need to protect in terms of adopting AI? Because otherwise it can do wrong things also, and you can adopt AI. And then the most bigger element is, I think, as a board members that you need to look at is the people element. Once again, right? If you don't have your people working on it, I don't think you will adopt. I think adaptation we spoke about, it's again, the board needs to know the people element of them. And the most, as a board members that you are, you need to look at the performance side of it, what Dr. Romesh spoke about, the P&L impact, the impact that you're making through these investments. So these are the, I would say, like the 4 elements that you need to look at. Of course, there are other things that in terms of from a board governance perspective, whether you have a committee that you govern the whole investment. I heard that Dr. Romesh is responsible to report to the board on a monthly basis or quarterly basis on what is happening. So it's the board itself is looking at it, or whether there is a committee of experts who are reviewing that. And board AI charter, what is the charter that you need to look at it in terms of. And again, I spoke about the data governance. And most importantly, I think the AI risk matrix also needs to be looked at from a board perspective. As we know, I think when you're an organization, you need to look at something called the enterprise AI as opposed to what is available out there, which you can do a lot of things. And your data leakage, and as a board members, you should understand, especially, again, doctor's presentation, he spoke about in Sri Lankan context, the PDPA, personal data protection, or personal data, how you use it. So if you just open it out, and you will be vulnerable, or the organization will be vulnerable for breaking those policies. So therefore, the data governance is very, very important in terms of from a board perspective. And of course, the other thing is the model governance. I think, yes, models are not that important in today's context, because tomorrow there will be a new model which will come. But still, the governance perspective in terms of how they will use your data, as some of you may know, with the introduction of Fable, what's the laws that which was introduced in terms of even your prompt is saved for about 30 days, and it is used for looking at the governance in terms of their due diligence, or their important. So that therefore, that you need to look at which model to be used and for what purpose. And from a management accountant's perspective, or a financial perspective, as we know that we are talking about token economics, or the economics of this is what is used is token. So that's another element, that the cost element that which will come in. So that governance is also very important from a board perspective, because otherwise, if you don't do the proper model governance, you might end up in using a lot of tokens, and which is not creating the real value. And finally, I think the assurance part of it, the board needs to ensure that, that whatever that we do with AI adoption, whether there is a real assurance to the organization as well as its overall stakeholders.
Thank you very much, Conrad. Professor Tushari, AI has incredible functionality, but there are legitimate concerns on who has access to the data we upload, where it is stored, and on information security. Conrad alluded to the PDPA. And there was an audience question that just came up about how companies and individuals can stay safe about the data they are sharing. So can you elaborate on how to use AI responsibly and some of the security implications?
Right. It's a wonderful question, actually, because it's timely relevant. Responsible AI and AI security are two different concepts. So in responsible AI, you may design, or you may develop, or you may use any artificial intelligence system or technology or model with fairness, interpretability, accountability, and explainability. So you should be able to explain or challenge where necessary why your system got or generate this answer. For an example, let's say in financial institutions, you are applying artificial intelligence-based technique solution to loan application, shortlisting loan applicants, and then recommending granting the loan. So your system rejects fail. You should be able to tell your customers that why you have been rejected. You cannot say that your algorithm or the system you generated and imported from somewhere else rejected you. So you have to consider about the factors, because we know now normally there are common rules, but there can be certain deviations. So maybe the customers you're considering may not be having the same characteristics, the common characteristics. Maybe they are having some sort of employment gap, or maybe some sort of disabilities. And putting all these together, the fair and unbiased recommendation should be able to deliver through these artificial intelligence-based solutions. Cannot tell your data to your company or your bank did not have these cases before, and therefore right now it is not the time to ask about. The system should be able to give clear and should be accountable for every decision it makes. So let's say at the board, or maybe you're uploading your board a lot of documents. So I know that many people join online and then they turn on this AI tool just to record the meeting or generate summaries. So do you have to think about where your data is going to? You are using this public AI platform freely, and you are recording all. And have you ever thought about who will be keeping your data? When you unsubscribe all these platforms, you paid for a while. Have you ever considered with the providers that what will happen to the chat or you have already entered? Will they automatically be deleted without telling to anybody else? Who will keep them? Who is responsible? Who is accountable when those tools are making a decision? So we have to think twice. So every organization should see this publicly available AI platform is not a personal or the organization specific workplace, very confidential, only all of us will be working on it. No, that is not the case. It's not a private thing. It's a common platform. So you have a big responsibility to save your data and employees who are capable and their abilities, as well as you have to improve the awareness among the employee and let them which tool can be used, what data will be allowed to upload to these tools. And you have to see this one, artificial intelligence, as a new employee with greatest capability. So of course it guesses values, but far better than human. They can write well than all of us. The human ability to write, comprehend, generate summaries, read books, we have already lagging behind. AI has gone far, far away. So it's high time. If it is just a normal message, a common message to post on the public, you are using a tool and then generated the public message and posting. And it is totally different from if you are using it to recruit your employees and analyze your analytical reports and uploading all the confidential data and generating nice output and publishing it as yours. And coming back to the second point very quickly, it's about the security. The security will be lying with the data, models, architectures, or platforms. And there you have to think about when you inject the prompt injection failures will be there, and secretly from the document you're logging the credentials and the amount, the salaries which are very personal to employee can directly be uploaded instantly. AI will not be doing it automatically like purposely, but unintentionally it will be going back to somebody else's. So my message is that be ready to share anything with the AI if you're feeling comfortable to share it with anybody else out there. Otherwise, you have to have trustworthy AI solution which could be used by your organizations with all confidential data. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think training your employees and policies about what and what you cannot upload is an important takeaway. Kaushika, can you touch a little on what some of the international companies are doing in terms of governance and tell us a little bit who bears responsibility? For instance, if an AI agent malfunctions or gives a wrong output, who is responsible and how do we mitigate such risks?
So for context, I work largely with financial services organizations, so banks. In Australia, we have superannuation, which is the privatized EPF ETF setup. That itself is a $4.3 trillion asset portfolio across the board, and public sector. So I work with banks and state government, federal government, local government organizations. So think of each state will have their own police department, they'll have their own education department, and they're funded separately. So it's two very opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how they look at success and how they look at value. Banks, it's all about shareholder value. If you look at the public sector, it's all about the common good or the value they create to their constituents or to their public. But in both instances, the problems are still the same. And it comes back to what was discussed before, jumping into a use case without understanding the outcome. We want to introduce AI-enabled forms that will recommend solutions for people. Back up. What is the actual problem you're trying to solve? What was wrong with the previous system? Was it too slow? Was it costing you too much? Or are you trying to serve more people? Figure that out first, and then you work backwards. So the starting point is always the same. What is the outcome? Is it revenue optimization? Is it revenue generation? Is it cost optimization? Is it scaling? Is it trying to go into a new market? Is it a new line of business? Is it personalization? You figure that out first, and then you work backwards. Now, the IMF has called out that 60% of jobs in advanced economies are going to be impacted by AI, and 40% of global employment is exposed to AI. So I see that as a clear opportunity for a country like Sri Lanka. Because if the baseline is the same for everyone, you now have the opportunity to jump ahead. Now, yes, we have limitations to think about, like developed economies don't have the problem of cloud infrastructure because they already have it. So that's the one area that it's a bit hard to compete against. But I think, as was discussed before, you take a horses for courses approach. If you're a small, medium enterprise and you don't have the budget, you don't jump in headfirst and try to do everything. You pick an outcome, you pick a use case, and you follow through. If you've got the money to play with and the resources to play with, then you build further. But the common thread across all of them is what framework do you set in place? So a lot of the Australian and Southeast Asian companies, they adopt the NIST framework, and they apply the NIST framework from a governance sense. And it's very simple what you have to do. Like, the framework can sound complex, but the fundamentals are still the fundamentals, which is, as was discussed before, get your foundations right, know where your data is, know what tools you're going to use, but then you build on that. From a governance layer, you classify and you assess the risk of your data. Every single employee in your organization needs to know what is personally identifiable information, what is not personally identifiable information. Do not put your clients' data into open platforms. These are things that you have to set in place as leaders. Then you assign clear ownership. If the payroll person is loading payroll data into an open AI platform, you have trouble. So you make it very clear you don't put payroll information into ChatGPT. Those kinds of things then automatically then go into, all right, who owns this data? So now you slowly start building a data governance strategy. Then you look at actionable playbooks. Strategies are good, but strategies without action is just words on a page. So you build a playbook. What will I do in the next 12 months? What am I going to do if this project goes south? What am I going to do if I have a cybersecurity breach? What am I going to do if my data is leaked? What am I going to do if someone puts this data, personally identifiable information, into an open platform? You need to have the answer. What are you going to do? Then you factor in the cost implications of it as well. Then you factor in, do I need to take out insurance on it? And you build all of that into your models. If you're a business that works with, let's say, fire, you make sure you have fire insurance. So if you work with data and there's a risk of that data leaking, you need to think about what your insurance portfolio is for that. And then you build monthly reviews into place or quarterly reviews, whatever your capacity is, but you review it. Structure you put in place, is it working? How do you need to improve it? And then you share that information with your staff and your customers and your investors, because that is how you make sure that you keep the discipline to keep doing what you're doing as well. So I work with organizations like Australian Super, UniSuper. These are large-scale enterprises that are all running different AI use cases, but they all have a structure in place. You'll be familiar with the concept of finance business partners. So the business partner who has to put together two and two. They have AI business partners. And their job is to stop people from going and taking their own little AI use cases and AI tools, and instead using the tools that are available within the system. That person can't be an IT person, because the IT person doesn't understand the finance business process. If your finance department's using a tool for month-end close or period close, the IT person's not going to know what's involved in that period close. So that is why it needs to be business-led as well. One thing I'll finally end on is something called the Jevons paradox. Now, the Jevons paradox is the concept that when you use AI more and more, you are assuming you are becoming more efficient. But you have to keep a very close eye on the cost attached to it. Because that theory basically says the more you use AI, the higher your costs go. Because it's new to everyone, you don't understand what the failure points might be. And so you need to keep a very close eye, as was mentioned before by Conrad, about the token economics that follow it. If the vendor offers you a flat fee, you still need to understand that doesn't mean that's the end of that cost. That's a licensing fee. You still have to maintain it. You still have to know what happens when something goes wrong. You still need to cost for what happens when something goes wrong. And so I would say you need to understand all of the pitfalls of AI and plan for it, cost for it, and factor that into the use case that you build on. And then if you still see the return coming, that is when you go straight into it.
Thank you. Dr. Ramesh, if I can come back to you, could you touch on some of the AI use cases? Right? I think that you're working on so many and some quick wins, particularly for finance teams that are out here. And some of your personal preferences, you mentioned Claude. What are some of the platforms that you like to work for different tasks?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a question I get asked very often. And the quick wins are numerous, Jahan. It's on one side, it's that personal productivity angle. There's a lot that can be done there. From in our companies we have Copilot, and Copilot is essentially ChatGPT. But the value I get from that platform is that it has access to my email and data history, which is massive. I get an email and it's a chain which has been running for 2 years. I can't remember what I've said 2 years ago, But this is able to distill that, get my additions, look at some of the directions, analyze the data patterns, and do all that. And for me, the big power of these systems is really the fact that they have access to your data, which is a different conversation altogether on the security side. But the value you get from it having your context, your email history, your document history is massive. So those essentially are very, very quick wins. Then on the other side, in terms of enterprise quick wins, and a quick win is always going to be a win, a use case which is not that data heavy. Meaning it doesn't need access to your real-time data and things like that. And this is where things like chatbots, up to a certain level of answering questions, FAQs and things like that can be quick wins. But if you're going to the next level of doing things like problem resolution and things like that, that's a much more complex problem, because you've got to then integrate it with your own real-time systems. On the financial side, I think there are so many things on those two things that I ended my talk on, which is first the distillation of data, being able to give it massive amounts of data, and to be able to get the AI to correlate it, understand trends, do forecasts, those type of things. You wouldn't do, I mean, you can get Claude or one of these platforms to do a forecast for you using one of the latest research papers out there. All you got to do is to upload the paper and say, use this algorithm to forecast it for you. It may be right, it may be wrong, but it's something that you can experiment on. But in terms of platform selection, my preference is always to build whatever I build in an agnostic way, not really get tied down to any one platform, because the space is moving so fast. You shouldn't really get tied to whether it's Claude or OpenAI. You know, it's just, you got Kimi came out a couple of days ago, which is apparently as good as Fable. There'll be another model in 2 weeks' time, which is even better, and it'll get better and better and better. So on a corporate side, I think tying yourself down to one platform, especially if you're building enterprise applications, because once, as Conrad said, the token price starts rising, the board is going to come down to you and say, this is not right. And then your only option then is going to be how you're going to reduce your token price. And then you might have to go for cheaper models. And down the line, I do feel that most companies will be hosting their own models, but that's probably the most cost effective. Even we've done the costing on using APIs for some of the systems like Claude versus taking a similar open source model and hosting it on our service. The cost is like 1/100th. It's that different. So it's really this space is so dynamic. The more flexible, the more hybrid your approach is, I think the better options you have going forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh. Tishan, session chairman, coming back to you. There's one question and then I'll ask you to wrap up the session. How can we ensure that financial reports generated through AI adhere to ISAP conceptual framework? Maybe if you'd like to touch on that question and then I'll ask you to sum up.
In fact, last month, we have launched AI guideline for finance professionals. It includes the methodology to be adopted for finance professionals to go in line with the IASB recommended guidelines, Jahan.
Thank you very much. We had a fantastic panel, some very good thoughts. So Tishan, you'd like to sum up and summarize and close the
Yes.
session?
Now, the impact of AI on accountants. Jahan, you know, my advice is, whether it is financial cost or management accountants, I think we need to understand the big picture. We need to understand there are 2-3 areas that AI wouldn't be able to replace. One is trust combined with ethics. Other one is the professional judgment. Right? So these two things, I don't think that AI will be able to replace. On the other hand, the real core competency for an accountant would be to understand, identify and understand where to apply AI, the business, developing the business case. For one to do that, especially in the context of agentic AI, because these generative AI tools, you can learn quickly. I mean, there are enough sources. There are many websites you can learn, but then now we are from 2023, we are moving into agentic AI. Now, in that context, you know, most of the work that we are doing, take audit and assurance. Very soon, capital market will start demanding real-time information with real-time assurance, just a matter of time. And we need to get ready for that. Take a risk management function of a bank, finance company, or insurance. Without using technology, I don't think that it can be effectively managed. Take the internal audit function. Without using AI-powered applications, I don't think an effective internal audit can be carried out for financial institution. We can see repercussions for that. I mean, at the moment, I serve on a bank. We are having discussions with several parties to introduce fraud monitoring application powered by AI. It's really expensive, but then we have decided to go for it because you know it will give real-time alerts. And you know, no sooner that we get the alerts, the required following up could be carried out. And in case if it leads to a fraud, the loss can be minimized. If not, I don't think with the reputational damage that a financial institution would get, we would be able to survive. Same in the context of taxation. Now there are tools that are being replaced with certain parts of the work done by the tax consultant. We need to understand then there are tax consultants who are leveraging on these tools, and they are the first movers, and they do very well. These are some of the areas. In fact, we need to understand really where we will be able to apply AI and related technology in an effective and efficient manner. We should be able to develop the business case in such a way to convince the board, and we should be able to develop the right KPIs, monitor and show value. I think the accountants, if they can build up these core competencies, they can really leverage on the AI and related technology going ahead.
Much over to the moderators. Thank you.
We would need to have you remain. Yes, as being gestured there. We have a token of appreciation that need to be presented to all. I'm not sure we have Dr. Sugi. Oh, he's there, right. We'll invite him and Professor Watawala and Mr. Kabir, President Safa, to do the necessary.
And so, as is the established form already, we begin with our keynote speaker, Dr. Romesh Ranavana. And then to our panelists, Mr. Conrad Dias, Mr. Kaushika Jayalath, Professor Tushari Silva, Mr. Hasit Yaggahavita, our session chair, Mr. Tishan Subasinghe, and Mr. Jehan Perinpanayagam, who ably moderated this session.
So a group photograph follows. That also is part of the established pattern for today.
So through this session, Aaron, I think we've established that it's not just about deploying AI without thought. It has to be done strategically with awareness of the risks. And that may actually mean evaluating your systems and processes and investing in your people first.
If you insist, yes. And also, I think from the substance we've absorbed through the day and mentioned earlier, the legacy processes really might not quite belong in the now rapidly developing so-called new world order, or is it a disorder? We'll find out in time, but there it is. So things have had to be changed, and all of the participants in your different spheres of activity will need to take this on board and see how it is, and one can move forward. So it's not just, as they say, talking shop, but now action